Fun facts. My name is Prachi. The most viewed YouTube video in 24 hours is Korean musical group BTS's 2019 single Boy With Love. And this is a video about all of my April favorites. This is the first month where I don't have any misses. Now, I know for a fact it's not because I think the world was going swimmingly during the month of April. I'm confident that there were about a billion terrible things going on in the news. However, I didn't pay attention to any of them. Does that make me a bad, global citizen? Yeah, it does. But April was such an overwhelming personal month for me that I just didn't have breathing room to try and watch or listen to the news. I'm confident that had I paid more attention, I would have been frustrated at something in the month of April, but I had enough on my plate dealing with exams and school and trying to juggle my own mental health to really just hate on something this month. So without any further ado, let's get it. You know how in my February hits, misses, and goodbye kisses, all of my beauty favorites were themed around the color red? In April, the primary color was pink. Now, before any of you think that I was in love with the color pink in April because spring has somehow arrived in Toronto, you are sadly very, very mistaken. With the wind chill, it's supposed to be below freezing tomorrow. And the weather outside is so horrifyingly abysmal with these apocalyptic storm clouds that it looks like it's night outside when it's really early afternoon. However, even though the actual weather in Toronto would not cooperate and give me the spring that I so wanted, I felt like I was in a personal spring. Spring is a time of renewal and growth. It's like a fresh start, it's a new beginning, everything is blossoming and blooming in the earth. And that metaphorical energy, even if it wasn't backed up by the actual weather, was the energy I carried with me all throughout April. So any and everything that put me into a spring mood made it onto my favorites list. Now, I want to make this super clear. The things that I'm about to name drop are things that happen to be in my collection that fulfill these color requirements, but really what's going into my favorites is the idea of the thing. You absolutely don't need any of these things that I'm shouting out as a favorite. Now, the first look that I really like to create in the month of April, and I did this a couple of different times, both on and off camera, was glittery pink eyeshadow. Much like what I'm wearing today. Now, I'm going to put the get ready with me that I did to create this look in the cards up above, but I want to make it clear that I don't actually own any glittery hot pink eyeshadows. I achieved this look by combining a whole bunch of things I own in some innovative and cool ways. And the particular products that I ended up using a lot during April were a very hot pink matte eyeshadow. This particular one happens to be Bright Pink by MAC. I also liked using this matte red color. Now this is actually a small sized blush from MAC in the color Never Say Never, and I particularly liked putting this in the crease and then this brighter pink on my actual lid, and the warmth in this helps transition the cool pink into my actual warm skin tone. On occasions when I didn't feel like carrying these two matte eyeshadows, I instead managed to achieve pink eyeshadow on my lids by using a shimmery hot pink blush. This one is the Extra Dimension blush in Rosy Cheeks by MAC. It's a very vivid fuchsia pink with a really strong sheen running through it. It's what's currently on my cheeks and layered on top of my eyes today. A lot of times I would just end up putting this on both my cheeks and my eyes to create like a monochromatic pink look. Now, I definitely did not do anything nearly as editorial as this. This is me trying to channel Rihanna at the Met Gala a couple of years ago. I bring this up because even if you personally don't own a bunch of pink eyeshadows, there's no real need for you to go out and buy a bunch of them if you happen to have pink blushes. If you're considering buying some pink eyeshadows, but you're not sure whether to pull the trigger or not, trying to use some of your pinker blushes on your eyes is a great way to kind of test it out. Now, some days in April, I would just do kind of the pink on my eyes and leave it at that, but my favorite way to just like amp up my look is to do a glittery eye like the one that I'm wearing today. And for that, I used my one lone Urban Decay Moondust eyeshadow. The particular shade is Space Cowboy, and although it looks like it would be like a neutrally beige cream peach color, it translates on my eyes as just pure silver glitter. And I really use this quite frequently in April to like zhuzh up a look. The second sort of broad category or technique that I used super frequently in the month of April was ombre pink lips. And this is actually a technique that I bring out pretty much every single spring and summer without fail since I saw it several years ago in a video by Charlotte Tilbury. Charlotte Tilbury posted this iconic video several years ago where she recreated the wedding makeup that she did for Amal Clooney. I bought into the hype and I actually bought Charlotte Tilbury's Bond Girl. This is a good lipstick. It's one of my most reached for lipsticks. However, when it finishes, I'm not 100% sure that I will repurchase it. I get that this is a really hyped up lip product, and it is what I'm wearing on my lips today in combination with the other lipstick I'm about to say, but I'm also here to tell you that it's not the be-all end-all lipstick that I thought it would be when I first bought it. And in fact, pretty soon after I purchased it, I realized that I owned a couple of things that gave me pretty much the same effect on my lips. However, this is the one that I chose to keep throughout all the declutters because this was the most expensive of all of my dupes, and it's the one that I'm shouting out in the video today. The particular technique that was my favorite technique basically consists of me putting a more neutrally pink My Lip But Better color all over my lips, and then taking a much more vibrant and rich hot pink or red and putting it right in the center. The only hot pink that I happen to own in my collection is this lipstick. It's by Uemura. This is from their limited edition Super Mario collection a couple years back. It doesn't have a name, it's just called MPK376 or Matte Pink 376. And again, you can literally use any bright pink lipstick that you own to create an ombre effect. As the summer progresses, you'll probably see me doing this ombre technique over and over again, just switching up the particular colors. But for the month of April, for me personally, my favorite was the pink on pink ombre lip. Moving on to non-beauty faves, the music that I favored this month was also a lot more spring oriented. Because like I said, I personally was trying to get into a more brighter, optimistic, and spring mindset. The first artist who I listened to a lot of in the month of April is an old favorite of mine. Her name is Laura Mvula or Mvula. I'm not 100% sure how to pronounce that. She's British, and two of her songs that I absolutely love and which I listen to so frequently this past month are Green Garden and That's Alright. Both the music video and the actual song Green Garden are just stunning spring and summer songs. The lyrics of Green Garden literally are about going outside into a green garden, but everything about it, the like beautiful tinkling instrumentation, the stunning backing vocals, Laura's voice, which is like deep and rich and reminds me of like a modern day Nina Simone, it's sublime. It could literally be snowing outside, but if I hear Green Garden, I am like suddenly filled with this inexplicable urge to go outside. The second track by Laura Mvula that I really enjoy is called That's Alright. The music video for this is also stunning. There's one particular look actually where Laura's wearing this like stunning ruffled bright red dress and she has this very vibrant electric purple eyeliner. And that look has stayed with me for years because it's so striking. That's Alright is like my pump up, get hyped, everything's gonna be okay song. I listened to it a lot in April when I felt a little bit like down about myself because there's this repeated refrain where she's like, I will never be what you want. That's alright. The song has a really like strong and intense percussion, which I love, and the lyrics truly just always make me feel better. Even if I started the song in kind of a low place, by the end of it, I'm like, yeah, I don't care what anybody else thinks. I am who I am, and that's alright. Neither of these songs are particularly new. I've been listening to them for a really long time, but April 2019 is when I sort of rediscovered them, so I want to give them a little bit of shine. The other musical artists I want to give a little bit of shine to are BTS. Unlike Laura Mvula, their music is not in English. However, if you are a fan of just like good pop music, the kind of tune that you can just like blast in the car and that instantly like awakens the summer mood in you, I would highly recommend checking out their newest single, Boy With Love. There is something about Boy With Love that when it starts playing, even if I'm like, oh, I hate my life, everything is so difficult, why is it like this? Before the first verse has even ended, catch me going, text me, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. My mood goes from 30 to 85 every time that song plays because it's impossible to like not cheer up when you hear it. Now, when I was younger, I thought only like alternative or indie or like classic rock and classic rap were like worthy of my attention and that pop music was somehow below me. Now that I'm actually older, I've stopped, for the most part, being a pretentious twit about music because life is short and I'm tired of pretending like it doesn't give me joy when it totally does. Now, the K-pop group BTS actually started off with a super hip-hop and rap sound. Now, over the years, their sound has evolved a lot, and this particular album is called Map of the Soul Persona, and it's linked back to the psychologist Carl Jung, who believed that inside each of us was a persona, the thing that we display to the outer world. And considering that that's the name of BTS's album and the theme running throughout it, the fact that their lead single, Boy With Love, is like a pure pop bop is super fitting because it's actually not the kind of music that they've ever released before, but it is the music that everyone expects them to release as a boy band. A seemingly cute, bright, and happy pop song about love. It is BTS's pop persona. It's what the Western world perceives them as. A boy band, not a hip-hop rap group that produces and writes their own music about a whole bunch of super serious issues, but like the type of thing you would blast in the car in the summer because it makes you feel really, really good. Also, the choreography, bomb. The music video, bright, sunny, vibrant, and colorful. Exactly the kind of energy I'm channeling into April. Do I care that the city of Toronto is absolutely not cooperating with me and that the weather basically wants to condemn me to a dark winter for the rest of my life like it's freaking Game of Thrones or something? No. Because when this song comes on, no matter what's going on outside, internally, I'm living my best summer life. Also, Halsey, super cute in that music video. She actually like learned a bunch of the choreo and she wears glittery pink eyeshadow, which automatically won over my heart. The fact that Halsey and I happen to share one brain cell when it comes to eye makeup, love it. Now, BTS actually came out with an entire album. I'm not gonna recommend the entire album to you, even though I enjoyed most of the tracks on it. I will, however, shout out my 3 favorite tracks from that album in case y'all are interested. The first one, and this was the most unexpected, is a track called Dionysus. Now, the first time I heard Dionysus, I was like, what the F? You may be thinking, oh, that's a bad reaction. However, in the Prachi Singh school of like musical appreciation, WTF is not the worst reaction you can get from me. The absolute worst reaction a song can get from me is boredom. When a song makes me go, what on earth was that? Usually it's because the artist took something of a big risk, and I respect that. I have a rule where if my first instinct when I hear a piece of music is to go, what on earth was that? I make sure to listen to it at least 3 more times. And then at the end of that 4th listen, I decide whether the wild, weird, experimental leap the artist took worked for me, and I liked the song enough to keep listening to it, or didn't work for me and it's time to maybe just delete it off my phone. Dionysus by BTS was a WTF song for me because it's like this weird fusion of like hip hop and rap and rock. A friend of mine did say that Dionysus sounds like the opening theme to a boxing anime. And although I've never seen an anime, the stray episodes of Dragon Ball Z I watched as a kid on Cartoon Network totally don't count. Somehow when she said that, those words felt right. It's a very weird, hype, rock, rap song. Only a group like BTS would sing a song in Korean about the Greek god Dionysus and then mention his like historic staff by name. It's such a truly bizarre song, but something about it weirdly endeared itself to me, and the more that I listened to it, the more I sort of appreciated the really interesting and weird risks that BTS took to release that, because whereas Boy With Love is exactly what you would expect from the persona of a K-pop group, Dionysus flips that on its head. If you were to ask anybody in the West what kind of song a K-pop group would come up with, everybody would expect a song like Boy With Love. They wouldn't expect a song like Dionysus. And even lyrically, the first time when I just heard the chorus, I was like, oh, are they just singing about drinking and partying. Like, is that why the song's called Dionysus? But then you look a little deeper into the lyrics and it turns out to be a song about artistry and what it means to be an artist, and how the creation of art and art itself is as addictive and intoxicating as alcohol. And that metaphor is super intriguing. The fact that the song sounds like nothing you would expect out of a K-pop band is super intriguing. Also, the choreography for Dionysus is off the chain. Even if you cannot stand the song, if you have like 4 minutes, I would suggest you check out the choreography to watch these 7 dudes perform like their life depends on it. I spent such a long time talking about Boy With Love and Dionysus. I'm just gonna zoom past the others. The intro track, Persona, is by RM, the same guy who released Mono, the mixtape that I referred to in my March check-in and my March hits, misses, and goodbye kisses. Whereas Mono was like languid and emo and emotional, Persona is like hype hip hop. Persona is RM showing off his skills as a rapper. It has just like a banging beat. I've really loved exercising to it. It's one of those songs where it's like my head automatically starts bobbing like in the middle of the song. So if you're more like into a hip hop vibe and you don't mind listening to songs not in English, Persona is the one that I would check out. So I spent a really long time talking about BTS, but the TLDR is, if you love pop music, Boy With Love featuring Halsey. If you think K-pop groups only make generic sounding pop songs and never experiment with things, plus you want to see some banging choreography and maybe you love a good guitar or like a little bit of a rock vibe, Dionysus. And if you are more into just like an old school hip hop vibe, you want a song that you can just kind of like bump your head along to, Intro, Persona. Those are my personal faves off of that album. And if you're open to listening to music that isn't in English, would suggest maybe checking them out. The final non-beauty fave that I would like to recommend to everybody is a YouTube channel, Contrapoints. Let me tell you how I discovered Contrapoints. Falling asleep is really, really difficult for me. So I listen to a lot of ASMR in order to fall asleep. I'm super duper picky about the types of ASMR I listen to, but the way the YouTube recommended system works is if I pick like one ASMR video to watch, suddenly it's like recommending me a bunch of ASMR videos at like 3 in the afternoon. And I'm like, ma'am, I'm not trying to take a nap here. Also, this is a person eating pickles out of a jar. Like, this is absolutely not what I would like to be listening to or watching. So one day at like 2 a.m. I was like trying to go to sleep, and when I opened up the YouTube app, it was right there at the top, recommended Incels Contrapoints. I was like, you know, the lighting is pretty like ambient and she's like holding a skull. Maybe she's gonna like do some weird witch roleplay and I'm not like super into that, but maybe I'll luck out and she'll like tap her fingers on the skull, which like super morbid. But when my eyes are closed, I won't be able to tell it's a skull and it'll just sound like tapping rain sounds and then I'll be able to go to sleep. So I clicked on Incels by Contrapoints. Ladies and gentlemen, that was not an ASMR video. No, what it was an incredibly intelligent trans woman called Natalie Wynn, who almost completed a PhD in philosophy, calmly, carefully, and with exquisite precision, informing everybody about the world of incels and then dismantling all of their core beliefs. And so even though it was 2 at night and I totally should have been sleeping, I instead clicked on Natalie's channel only to discover that she had uploaded a bunch of videos on a wide variety of super interesting political, philosophical, and social topics. So I binge watched a bunch of her videos over the next couple of days, became a subscriber, and turned on notifications. The reason why I particularly wanted to shout out Contrapoints as a fave this month is because, first of all, because she's just incredible. If you are interested in hearing really smart people talk about philosophy and politics, people who have actually like done their work and who are funny and are willing to listen to multiple sides of an issue but then very calmly use like logic, reasoning, and rationality to like debunk a bunch of myths, Natalie, Contrapoints, is absolutely the channel to watch. Additionally, the production value on her videos is insane. There's like like several $1,000s worth of lighting in every single one of her videos. She does intricate makeup, intricate costuming. There are often like characters that she'll bring out. Like one is a Lady Foppington who looks like she belongs in Marie Antoinette's court with this powdered wig and a fan and an exorbitant aristocratic period costume. Like that is the level of thought, creativity, and production that goes into each of these videos. Natalie actually has an incredible video called The Aesthetic where she talks a lot about politics and what it takes to change people's minds. And in that video, she says that having good facts and reasoning are not enough, that you need to have solid content, but you also need to pay attention to the aesthetics of a thing, to how it looks, to the presentation, to the packaging. And Contrapoints as a channel is truly the encapsulation of both, because you are getting very high quality, well thought out, philosophical content. Like Natalie is clearly a highly intelligent woman, but you are also getting that incredibly high production value and aesthetic. You will learn a lot each time you watch her videos about trans issues, about gender, about politics, about postmodernism, about what people say when they say terrifyingly big words like postmodern neo-Marxism, which is like, what is that? That's not language that's accessible to the average person at all. And Natalie breaks down all of that without ever making you feel dumb, inserting a good bit of dark and sometimes sexual humor, and paying attention to the aesthetics of the thing, making sure that you are actually engaged and entertained the entire time. Her videos have actually changed the minds of young men who have been radicalized into the alt-right, because all of these men think that they're being super rational and that their logical and rational brains are what led them to the logical and rational choice of being on the alt-right. And Contrapoints just very carefully dismantles all of that using the logic and rationality that they understand. So just on all of those merits alone, Contrapoints is a channel worth checking out. However, I personally am putting her on my list for April because of a particular video that she released maybe like a month and a half ago called The Darkness. Natalie basically looks at philosophy around the comedy. What is comedy? What's its purpose? What makes a joke funny or unfunny? And she looks at edgy comedians. So comedians who often get into trouble for making offensive jokes. And she sort of deconstructs what's going on there. Because Natalie herself is a person who makes a lot of edgy jokes. And that video as a whole really resonated with me because one of the themes that she discusses in the video is that a lot of like the cutting edge humor comes from the darkness, the taboo parts of life that nobody likes to acknowledge or discuss. That basically comedy comes from those situations where everything is on fire, and that there is a big difference between comedy where somebody who's not on fire is looking at somebody who is on fire and then trying to make edgy and offensive humor around that, versus comedy where you yourself are the person who is on fire and are able to laugh at the absurdity of the situation anyway. Hearing that, I related to it a lot because I'm one of those people who I'm very blasé about my depression, my anxiety, my ADHD. I don't know if y'all have caught it yet on this channel, in part because quite a few of my videos have been of the intensely personal and highly earnest and sincere variety, but I need y'all to understand that that is kind of an exception. My earnestness and my sincerity around getting better, around making sure that people who have ADHD, who have depression, who have anxiety, who are just going through it in life, that they don't make the same mistakes that I do, that they don't have to suffer the way that I have, that earnestness and sincerity is 100%. However, the way in which I am able to cope with the darkness is always through humor. I am a person who is incredibly flippant and constantly cracking jokes about my ADHD and my depression, to the point where people think that it's not a very serious and real problem for me because I'm able to so successfully crack jokes. And then when they find out the extent of how serious my depression was, the fact that there was very much so a point in my life where I was suicidal, people get really shocked. And there's this sense of disbelief, like, how can you like crack jokes? How can you not take this seriously? And I find that that reaction most often comes from people who have never actually been through depression themselves, or from people who don't have ADHD. Because in fact, as a person who has been in those situations, so much of it is just highly absurd. It's because even when I myself am being burned alive, I'm able to look down and find the humor in being on fire. And I'd never quite been able to articulate that until I watched Natalie's video. I poke a lot of fun and I crack a billion jokes about my mental illness because my mental illnesses put me in wild and absurd situations. And acknowledging the absurdity of them and finding humor in them is one tool that I use to be able to undercut the destructive power that those mental illnesses have in my life. Because if I take depression me and the thoughts of depression me so seriously, in some sense, I give it more power and the ability to distance myself just a little bit from it and be like, this is absurd. The thoughts of depression, Prachi, are absurd and ridiculous. The situation that I have found myself in where it's been 6 days and I haven't showered and suddenly I'm out of dry shampoo and then I went to go buy this weird mousse thing and this mousse thing isn't working and so now I need to drag myself into the shower and I'm just like laying there on the floor because I don't have the energy to properly wash myself. That's an absurd situation. That whole scenario is ridiculous. Me struggling with the dry shampoos, me being mad at this like bottle of mousse, me just like lying down in the shower for like 20 minutes trying to not even washing my hair, which is the thing that I got into the shower to do in the first place. All of that is absurd and ridiculous. And recognizing that this like super serious thing called depression is what put me in that weird, absurd, and hilarious situation makes depression not seem as scary. It makes the depression feel manageable. It helps me just sort of look around at myself and be like, this is funny. And because it's funny, I'm going to be fine. Oh my God, this is not a check-in. So big shout out to Contrapoints for that. I would highly suggest checking out her videos. My camera battery is dying. I've been talking for like an incredibly long time. I also somehow turned this into a really personal check-in almost. So I'm just gonna wrap it up. Thank you so much for watching, especially if you stuck it out with me to the end. As always, I hope you have a great upcoming week. And even if your upcoming week ends up becoming messy and imperfect, I hope that you're still able to create and experience some truly beautiful moments. If those beautiful moments are you just laughing at the absurdity of the mess and imperfection, that's fine. Bye.